When Batman and Robin was released in 1997, it was a critical and commercial disaster. The movie's reception was so negative that not only did it put the Batman movie series on hold, it left a huge void in the comic book movie genre. While the previous Batman movies of the late 80s and early 90s had done well, other superhero movie projects such as The Shadow, Judge Dredd, and Spawn failed to replicate that success, and with the failure of Batman and Robin, the genre appeared to be dead. However, the release of Blade in 1998 marked a significant turning point in the comic book movie genre. Based on a little-known Marvel series, it was a critical and commercial success. While the rise of the Marvel Cinematic Universe was still the better part of a decade away, the success of other Marvel projects such as X-Men and Spider-Man in the early 2000s made the genre viable for movie studios again. The question was, could this reignited interest in superhero properties mean that Batman could make a big screen comeback? Batman Begins was directed by Christopher Nolan and starred Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Katie Holmes, Liam Neeson, Cillian Murphy, and Morgan Freeman. The story involves a young Bruce Wayne, whose parents are murdered in front of him while he was a small boy. Later in life, Bruce discovers that crime and corruption has taken over the city of Gotham. He spends the next 7 years traveling the world and training in combat. Eventually, he returns to Gotham and wages war in the criminal underworld, not as Bruce Wayne, but as his new alter ego, Batman. The development of Batman Begins involved a concerted effort to return to the roots of the character, presenting a darker, more realistic interpretation that explored the origins of Bruce Wayne's transformation into Batman. In the early 2000s, several attempts were made to revive the franchise. Some of the proposed ideas included a Batman Year One adaptation by Aronofsky and a crossover film, Batman vs. Superman. However, these projects failed to materialize, largely because they could not effectively balance the need to satisfy long-time Batman fans with the desire to attract a broader audience. The franchise was at a crossroads, and it became clear that a fresh vision was necessary. Christopher Nolan, then an up-and-coming director known for Memento and Insomnia, was approached to take on the challenge of rebooting Batman. Nolan, along with Blade screenwriter David S. Goyer, envisioned a film that would explore the psychological and moral journey of Bruce Wayne, rather than simply presenting Batman as a larger-than-life hero. They aimed to ground the story in a more realistic world, eschewing the fantastical elements that had characterized previous Batman films. Nolan and Goyer took inspiration from several key Batman comics, including Frank Miller's Batman Year One and Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's The Long Halloween. These comics emphasized the character's dark origins, his motivations, and his complex relationship with Gotham City. Nolan was particularly interested in exploring the idea of fear as both a weapon and a driving force for Bruce Wayne. This thematic focus was integral to the development of the film's story. Before Darren Aronofsky's Batman project was aborted, several actors had been considered to play Batman, including Jake Gyllenhaal, David Boreanaz, and Cillian Murphy. It was during this time that actor Christian Bale expressed interest in the role. Bale had come to prominence as a child actor during the late 80s, playing the lead role in Steven Spielberg's World War II drama Empire of the Sun. After spending the 90s playing minor supporting roles, he rose to prominence once again in the role of the serial killer Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. However, it was his performance in The Machinist that brought him to the attention of Christopher Nolan. Bale had shocked audiences with his extreme weight loss, but it was his performance in that and American Psycho that convinced Nolan that Bale could play the multiple roles of Batman and Bruce Wayne. Bale hired a personal trainer to get back in shape, and gained 100 pounds of muscle with only a few months before filming was due to begin. To play the role of Alfred, Nolan had first offered it to Anthony Hopkins, but after turning the part down, chose veteran actor Michael Caine. Caine had a long career in stage and screen, playing memorable roles in classic movies such as The Italian Job, Zulu, and winning Academy Awards for his roles in Hannah and Her Sisters and The Cider House Rules. Caine came up with his own backstory for the character of Alfred, that he had served in the British SAS before being wounded, and offered the role of butler for the Wayne family. To play the part of Rachel Dawes, Bruce's childhood friend and love interest, Nolan chose actress Katie Holmes. Holmes made her feature film debut in director Ang Lee's The Ice Storm, before achieving worldwide fame and recognition for her role in the hugely popular TV series Dawson's Creek. To play the role of the movie's main villain, Ra's al Ghul, or Henry Ducard as he's known for most of the film, Nolan initially thought of casting Gary Oldman, before deciding that he would be better suited to the part of James Gordon. Nolan considered other actors such as Guy Pearce and Viggo Mortensen, before casting Liam Neeson in the role. Neeson started his career in film in small supporting roles in the likes of John Boorman's Excalibur and Krull. After several roles on film and television in his native Ireland, he moved to Hollywood, starring in films such as The Deadpool and Suspect. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Neeson played many father figure roles in the likes of Star Wars Episode I The Phantom Menace and Kingdom of Heaven. It was partly for this reason that Nolan cast him in the dual role of Henry Ducard and Ra's al Ghul, both Batman's mentor and enemy. Cillian Murphy was cast as Jonathan Crane, also known as the Scarecrow. After several roles in Irish films such as Intermission and The Wind That Shakes the Barley, he came to international prominence starring in the horror film 28 Days Later, before landing major roles in Hollywood productions like Sunshine and Red Eye. Murphy had been considered for Batman in the Aronofsky version, and did screen test for Nolan, but although deemed unsuitable for the title role, Nolan liked him enough to cast him as the movie's secondary villain. To play the role of Bruce Wayne's armor, Lucius Fox, Nolan cast big screen legend Morgan Freeman. Freeman had a long film and TV career, playing supporting roles going back as far as the early 70s, but rose to prominence in the late 80s starring the likes of Glory, Driving Miss Daisy, and The Shawshank Redemption. He won an Academy Award for his outstanding performance in Clint Eastwood's $1 Million Baby. Filming on Batman Begins commenced in March 2004. An uncommon practice Christopher Nolan undertook with all his films is that he did not employ a second unit, preferring to shoot everything with his own crew present. Nolan's commitment to realism was evident from the start of filming. He chose to shoot Batman Begins on 35mm film rather than digital, to give the movie a more tangible, textured look. Cinematographer Wally Pfister, who had worked with Nolan on his previous films, was tasked with bringing the director's vision to life. Pfister employed a naturalistic lighting style, emphasizing shadows and contrasts to reflect Gotham City's dark, foreboding atmosphere. The film's aesthetic was inspired by noir films and the gritty realism of 1970s cinema, creating a mood that matched the thematic content of the story. One of the most significant aspects of Batman Begins was its use of practical effects. Nolan was determined to avoid relying heavily on CGI, which he believed would detract from the film's realism. The Batmobile, known in this film as the Tumbler, is a prime example of this commitment. Rather than creating a digital version, the production team built a fully functional vehicle capable of performing the stunts seen in the film. The Tumbler was designed to look and feel like a military vehicle, with a rugged, utilitarian design that reflected Batman's approach to crime fighting. Another important aspect of the filming process was the use of real-world locations. Instead of creating Gotham City entirely on sound stages or through CGI, Nolan opted to film in cities like Chicago, London, and Reykjavik. Chicago served as the primary stand-in for Gotham, with its mix of historic and modern architecture providing the perfect backdrop for the urban landscape of the fictional city. Additional set pieces, such as the Narrows, were constructed at Shepperton Studios in the UK. The decision to use real locations added authenticity to the film, making Gotham City feel like a living, breathing place. The action sequences in Batman Begins were also filmed with a focus on realism. Nolan hired martial artist and fight choreographer David Foreman to develop a new style of fighting for Batman, called the Casey fighting method. This method emphasized quick, brutal strikes designed for close quarters combat, which suited the character's need for efficiency and stealth. The fight scenes were filmed using handheld cameras and quick cuts, adding to the chaotic and intense feel of the action. Filming Batman Begins was not without its challenges. The decision to use practical effects and relocations often complicated the shooting process. For example, the Tumbler's size and weight made it difficult to maneuver through narrow city streets, requiring careful planning and coordination. The scene where the Batmobile jumps across rooftops in Gotham was filmed using a combination of practical stunts and miniatures. Weather conditions also posed a challenge, particularly during the scenes filmed in Iceland, which stood in for the Himalayan location of Bruce Wayne's training with the League of Shadows. The harsh, icy landscape added a layer of authenticity to the scenes, but it also made filming difficult, with cast and crew enduring freezing temperatures and unpredictable weather. Filming on Batman Begins ended in October 2004. To create the music score for the film, Christopher Nolan took the unusual route of hiring two separate composers, Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard. Zimmer, known for his work on films like Gladiator and The Lion King, brought a sense of grandeur and intensity to the score, while Howard, known for his more melodic and emotional compositions in films like The Sixth Sense and The Village, infused music with a sense of humanity and introspection. This partnership allowed for a balance between the raw, primal energy that Batman embodies and the emotional journey that Bruce Wayne undertakes. One of the defining features of the Batman Begins score is its use of minimalism and thematic development. Unlike many traditional superhero scores that rely on a bold, immediately recognizable theme, Zimmer and Howard opted for a more restrained approach. The main Batman theme, for instance, is a simple two-note motif that gradually builds in intensity and complexity throughout the film. This motif reflects Batman's journey from a man haunted by fear and loss to a symbol of hope and justice for Gotham City. Zimmer and Howard divided their work based on the duality of Bruce Wayne and Batman. Zimmer focused on the darker, more aggressive aspects of Batman, while Howard concentrated on the more introspective and emotional moments associated with Bruce Wayne. This division is evident in tracks like Molasses, which is driven by relentless percussion and brass, capturing the intensity of Batman's pursuit of justice. The score also introduces themes that are central to the story. For instance, the concept of fear is musically represented through dissonant strings and electronic textures, creating an unsettling atmosphere that underscores key scenes, such as Bruce Wayne's encounters with bats or his confrontations with the Scarecrow. In contrast, the theme associated with hope and renewal is more melodic, and is often played during moments of triumph or resolution, such as Bruce's decision to take up the mantle of Batman, or the final showdown with Ra's al Ghul. The score for Batman Begins not only set the tone for the rest of Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, but also had a lasting impact on the genre as a whole. Its emphasis on mood, texture, and thematic development over bombastic, traditional superhero themes marked a departure from the norm, and influenced many subsequent superhero films. Batman Begins is not just an origin story for Batman, it is a deep exploration of fear, identity, and justice. Through its story, characters, and visual symbolism, Batman Begins delves into these themes, presenting a nuanced portrayal of a man struggling with inner demons while striving to create meaning and order in a chaotic world. The theme of fear is central to Batman Begins. The film opens with a young Bruce Wayne falling into a well and being swarmed by bats, an experience that plants the seeds of a lifelong phobia. Fear, as the movie suggests, is a powerful and often paralyzing force. It is both a weapon and a weakness, a theme embodied by the film's villains, particularly Dr. Jonathan Crane. Crane uses a hallucinogenic toxin to exploit people's fears, transforming them into psychological weapons. Bruce Wayne's journey in the film is largely about confronting and mastering his fear. His decision to adopt the persona of Batman is not just about adopting a symbol of terror to fight crime, it is about turning his deepest fear into a source of strength. By embracing the Bat, the creature that once terrified him, Bruce symbolically overcomes his fear, transforming it into a tool for justice. This evolution is key to the story, as it marks Bruce's transition from a frightened, vengeful man into a disciplined and purposeful protector of Gotham. Like many superhero movies, identity is another significant theme in Batman Begins. The film explores the dual identities of Bruce Wayne and Batman, and how they coexist and conflict with one another. Bruce struggles to reconcile his public persona as a billionaire playboy with his secret life as vigilante. This duality raises questions about who the real Bruce Wayne is. The orphaned child who witnessed his parents' murder, the disillusioned young man seeking revenge, or the masked hero dedicated to protecting Gotham. Nolan plays with this duality throughout the film, emphasizing that Batman is not just a disguise, but an extension of Bruce's true self. The mask allows Bruce to express his true nature, his desire for justice, while the persona of Bruce Wayne becomes the mask he wears to hide his mission. This team's duality is further reinforced by the villains in the film, particularly Ra's al Ghul, who presents himself as Henry Ducard, a mentor figure to Bruce, before revealing his true identity. The mirroring of Bruce's duality with that of his enemies highlights the complexity of identity and the blurred line between heroism and vigilantism. The pursuit of justice is a driving force in Batman Begins, but the film presents a nuanced portrayal of what justice means in a corrupt society. Gotham City is depicted as a place where crime and corruption has taken root at every level, from the streets to the highest echelons of power. The justice system is compromised, and the police are largely ineffectual, forcing Bruce to seek justice outside the law. However, Batman Begins does not present a simplistic view of justice as a mere punishment of criminals. Instead, it delves into the ethics of vigilantism and the consequences of taking the law into one's own hands. Bruce's decision to become Batman is driven by a desire to restore justice, but it also raises moral questions. Is Batman a hero for protecting Gotham, or is he simply another figure of fear, no different from the criminals he fights? The film does not provide easy answers, instead allowing these questions to linger, challenging the audience to consider the complexities of justice in an unjust world. Batman Begins represents a glorious rebirth for Batman. It's not just a cinematic icon, but as a major figure in popular culture. While the excellent animated series from the early 90s was one of the most faithful depictions of the character, Batman Begins' greatest success was that for the first time in live action, a movie focused on the character of Batman himself, not his villains. While several of the Batman live action movies hinted at the character's origins, this movie, taking its influence from the likes of Frank Miller's Batman Year One comic series from 1987, took the time to tell the complete story of the origin of the Dark Knight. Christopher Nolan's vision for his Batman universe is that of grounded realism. It's clear that this is a world where superheroes do not exist, at least not yet. Gotham City, the villains, and even Batman's technology feels like they could exist in the real world, giving the film a more realistic feel than previous Batman movies. This approach makes Batman's struggles, both physical and psychological, more relatable and impactful. Non-linear storytelling is a common technique in most of Nolan's movies, and Batman Begins is no exception. For the first hour, the film constantly switches timelines between Bruce Wayne's childhood, his late teens, early 20s, and the present day. It's a very effective technique which not only keeps new viewers who are unaware of Batman's origins interested, but prevents those who are familiar with the character's comic book background from getting bored. Together, these elements create a Batman universe that feels sophisticated and mature, resonating with a wide audience, including those who may not typically watch superhero films. Nolan clearly took influence from the likes of Richard Donner's Superman in 1978, with his casting of experienced iconic actors such as Michael Caine, Morgan Freeman, Gary Oldman, and Liam Neeson in supporting roles. This helped give the film a sense of gravitas that was lacking in previous Batman pictures. When it comes to Christian Bale's performance as Batman, he's the first actor to convincingly portray what is actually three sides to the character. Bruce Wayne, the tortured soul who seeks justice, the billionaire playboy public image of Bruce Wayne who drives expensive cars and dates supermodels, which is part of the disguise for what could be argued is his true persona, Batman, the vengeful creature of the night which all criminals fear. While I liked Michael Keaton as Batman, he lacked the sheer physicality that Bale brought to the part. Bale's Batman isn't just a stoic hero. He's a man grappling with trauma, guilt, and his moral limits. His performance gives Batman a more human quality, showing moments of vulnerability, doubt, and exhaustion. This realism makes his portrayal more relatable and grounded, enhancing the emotional stakes of the film. One of my favourite scenes is where he runs into Rachel Dawes as he's out playing up his playboy image with a pair of supermodels. It's in this scene as Bruce is embarrassed in front of his childhood friend, where we see the mask slip and the real Bruce comes out. It's a terrific acting masterclass from Christian Bale. Bale's infamous Bat voice may have sparked debate, but it's become iconic, emphasizing the fearsome, animalistic side of the character.
Where were the other drugs going?
I don't know. I swear to God.
Swear to me!
I know some people think it's overdone, but I've always liked it. Bruce Wayne is one of the most famous people in Gotham. It makes sense he would disguise his voice. What was considered a risk at the time was the use of two Batman villains, Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow, who had no marquee value like more famous Batman enemies like the Joker and Penguin. But I think that's to this movie's advantage. Personally speaking, I think it's cool that they cast two of Ireland's finest actors to play them. For many comic book fans, Ra's al Ghul is one of the most unique and threatening villains of Batman's rogues gallery. Like the rest of the movie, Liam Neeson's interpretation of the character is much more grounded and complex. He's actually playing an amalgamation of two characters from the comic book lore, Henry Ducard, who did actually train Batman, and Ra's al Ghul, who is in fact immortal in the lore. They do kind of hint at this aspect of the character late in the film though. Neeson's casting was a stroke of genius, as he's played a lot of father figure types, so it was quite shocking to see him revealed as the movie's true villain in the third act, surprising both casual movie viewers and long-time Batman comic fans. My only issue with this twist is that it's not really in character for Ra's al Ghul to use a decoy. The character in the source material never felt the need to disguise his identity in such a manner. Then again, in the comics and animated series, the character is hundreds of years old, and has survived for so long using what is known as a Lazarus pit. So I understand Nolan making changes to the character to more fit in with his more grounded and realistic version of the Batman universe. Cillian Murphy brings a very creepy vibe to his interpretation as Dr. Jonathan Crane, even before he turns into his alter ego, the Scarecrow. Crane is more of a psychological threat, which fits with the film's overall theme of fear. While he appears to be the primary antagonist of the film, the third act reveal is so good that Nolan would do it again in The Dark Knight Rises. More on that in a future video. Katie Holmes as Bruce's love interest Rachel Dawes is often seen as possibly the weakest part of the film. I think that's a little unfair though. More than just being a love interest, she actually plays the part of Bruce's conscience for a lot of the film, and comes across as just a little bit more mature than Bruce. My only real complaint is that she looks a little too young to be the city's district attorney. She looks like she should still be in school. Holmes gives a perfectly decent performance, and has far more chemistry with Christian Bale than her replacement Maggie Gyllenhaal in the next film. Christopher Nolan's overall grounded and realistic approach to the film extends to the action sequences. Nolan's use of practical effects and real stunts gives the action scenes a visceral, tangible feel. Rather than relying on CGI, Nolan's use of real locations, explosions, and vehicle chases to create thrilling, believable set pieces makes it far more exciting than the last couple of Batman movies. I love how the movie doesn't actually name Batman's vehicle the Batmobile, and how all his tech is repurposed Wayne Enterprises tech that didn't go into full production. Everything about Batman's arsenal has a real-world use and believability, from the grappling gun being a repurposed climbing harness, to even the bat ears having a practical use to house listening devices. My only issue with the fight scenes is that they are shot and edited with that kind of close-up, shaky cam style, popularised by the Bourne films in the 2000s. Sometimes it's a bit difficult to see what is actually going on, and there are frequently far too many quick cuts and close-ups. For me, the warehouse fight in Batman v Superman is the gold standard as far as Batman fight scenes go. Despite Nolan's reputation for making gritty and serious films, it's interesting that his movies do have moments of good humour in them, and Batman Begins is no exception.
Well, a guy dresses up like a bat clearly has issues.
However, I think Batman Begins' greatest achievement is that it makes the viewer so invested in Bruce Wayne's story that you barely notice that it's almost an hour into the film before he becomes Batman. While previous movies relegated the character to almost a supporting role, this movie truly celebrated what makes Batman so special. He has no superpowers. He's a man who suffered an extremely traumatic childhood experience, but rather than succumb to a life of depression and crime, he trained his mind and body to the best of his ability. He took his worst fears and made them a strength. There's something very appealing about that. He represents the idea that with enough determination and training, an ordinary person can achieve extraordinary things. Overall, Batman Begins accomplished what was seemingly impossible in the early 2000s. It made Batman relevant again, thrilling longtime fans and creating new ones. While hopes were high for Batman Begins during its release in summer 2005, there were concerns over a possible soft opening for the film. Although it had been 8 years since the disastrous release of Batman and Robin in 1997, the film's reputation had gotten even worse over the years, and Christian Bale was not a major star at the time. Other factors of concern were the movie's lack of iconic villains, such as the Joker and the Penguin, that were usually played by A-list celebrities. Some also expressed concern that Katie Holmes' involvement with the film could derail the movie's financial prospects due to her high-profile relationship with Tom Cruise after his controversial appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show. However, upon its release on June 15, 2005, Batman Begins was met with widespread critical acclaim. Reviewers praised the film for its mature tone, strong performances, and thematic complexity. Roger Ebert lauded the film as the Batman movie I've been waiting for. More correctly, this is the Batman origin story I've been waiting for. Film director Tim Burton, who had directed the first two Batman films, felt Nolan captured the real spirit that these kind of movies are supposed to have nowadays. Nolan certainly got more into the root of what the Batman comics are about. Batman Begins was also a commercial success. It opened at number 1 at the box office with 48 million, which was considered strong, but unimpressive by blockbuster standards at the time. However, the glowing critical reception from fans and critics helped the film to perform well over the coming weeks, eventually grossing $373 million on a $150 million budget. Audiences appreciated Nolan's vision and the film's serious treatment of its characters and themes, making it a favourite among both longtime Batman fans and new viewers. More than that, Batman Begins redefined the reboot model in Hollywood. By successfully restarting a franchise that had been considered creatively bankrupt, the film proved that reboots could work if approached with fresh ideas and respect for the source material. This approach inspires similar reboots across the industry, including those of James Bond with Casino Royale in 2006 and Star Trek in 2009. Christopher Nolan's career was also transformed by Batman Begins. While he had already gained recognition for his earlier films, Batman Begins established him as a major force in Hollywood. The film's success gave Nolan the freedom to pursue more ambitious projects, leading to films like Inception and Interstellar. With Batman Begins being such a success and reinventing the character as a cinematic icon, thoughts soon turned to the inevitable sequel. Christopher Nolan was unsure he would return, and the question was, could the sequel capitalize on everything he and his cast and crew accomplished? It would need to take an even more ambitious approach, and the big screen return of Batman's arch nemesis. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Batman Begins in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, consider subscribing if you haven't done so already, share this video out there, click the bell for notifications, and join me next time for part 6 of this series. Bye for now.